Today we're going to be looking at a past paper from Computer Science from Edexcel IGCSE 9-1. It is paper 1, Principles of Computer Science, and it is the 2021 paper. Course code 4CPO, and it's a 01 paper. Okay, this is part 1. So just quickly, I just want to go through the difference between paper 1 and paper 2 for Edexcel papers. Paper 1 is 2 hours. It covers the principles of computer science. It's 50% of your final mark, just like paper 2, and the total marks is 80. Okay, paper 1 is 2 hours, and paper 2 is 3 hours. Paper 1, though, is purely computer theory, the basic principles, and you've got to demonstrate an understanding and knowledge of the basic principles of computer science, including some coverage of how these principles are applied when solving computational problems that relate to a particular situation. Paper 2 obviously has a practical element to it, where you'll be supervised. Okay, but you'll be using a choice of 3 different programming languages, either Python, C#, or Java. The paper consists of multiple choice, short open responses, extended open response answers, and task-based questions. The task-based questions will be carried out using a computer system under supervision. All of the questions require a written response, and they'll be answered in the paper, okay, in the exam paper. A pseudocode reference document will be available for learners to reference during the assessment. Okay, but we'll focus on paper 1, particularly this one from 2021. Okay, so let's get started. Question 1. Computers use binary to represent and store data. Binary and hexadecimal notation can be used to represent numbers. Convert the denary number 77 into 8-bit binary. Okay, so let's start with drawing out an 8-bit register. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Okay? Then we need to work out where 77 goes. So there are no 128 does not fit into 77, but 64 does, which means that if we have 77, take away 64, we have 13 left. Now 32 doesn't go into 13, 16 doesn't go into 13, but 8 does, and 13 minus 8 equals 5, which means we've got 1 4 left, no 2s, and a 1. So 77 equals 01001101. Okay, now it's 2 marks. I'm assuming they're wanting the first 0 under 128 because it is an 8-bit binary number. According to the mark scheme, it is for each nibble. So that needs to be right, and that needs to be right. Okay, so next, okay, number 2. Convert the denary number 100 minus 126 to 8-bit binary using 2's complement. So again, I'm going to do an 8-bit register. This time, I'm going to go 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, minus 128. Okay, because we've got a minus number here. Now how it works with this, we put a 1 here to signify that it is a minus number. So we start with minus 128. Now what do we need to do to get to minus 126? Well, basically we need to add 2 to it. If we add positive 2, we go up the number line, so plus 2, yeah, would get us to there. Because if we added 64, for example, we'd end up with minus 64. So we've gone too far. So let me just rub this out. So basically what that means is, if I go 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, basically I've added plus 2 to minus 128. I've gone up the number line and I have now got 100, or rather minus 126. Okay, and that is the negative representation. Okay, so third one, we now have convert the binary pattern to hexadecimal, binary pattern. What on earth are they talking about? Why would they use binary pattern? It's an 8-bit number. Okay, now with hexadecimal, this is so easy. I'm going to show you this a little trick. If I put down 1, 1, 0, 0, and I split it into 2 nibbles, 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay, so I've split it down the middle. On this side, I go 1, 2, 4, 8. And on this side, I go 1, 2, 4, 8. I'll start it here. I've got one lot of 4 and one lot of 2, so that must be 6. Okay, on this side. But on this one, I've got 8 plus 4, which equals 8 plus 4, which equals 12. Now, A equals 10 in binary, B equals 11, C equals 12, D equals 13, E equals 14, and finally F equals 15. So we've got C. So the answer would be C6. Okay? And it's 2 marks. You'd get 1 mark for the C, and you'd get 1 mark for the 6. Okay? And that's page 1 done. A total of 6 marks. Okay, this is a strange one. Raoul wants to record a song and store it as a digital sound file. Figure 2 shows an overview of the process of recording a song and storing it as a digital sound file onto a floppy disk. Bizarre. What year are we in? Describe the steps taken to convert the analog sound to a digital sound file. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got a line that's running like this. This is our analog sound. Okay, but then we've got obviously these steps, which is converting it into digital sound. So what do we need to do? Describe the steps taken to convert the analog sound into digital sound. Well, first of all, we've got to set up our sample rate. What rate we're going to use, and what is the bit depth for the sound. Okay, then we're going to take the sample. Take a sample. Okay, of analog sound. Okay, and then we will measure the volume. Okay, which is also called the amplitude. Okay, frequency. And then we need to convert or provide a binary value for each measurement. Okay, so each of these little marks would have a binary value. And then finally, just here, store as digital file. Obviously, that's going up there. Okay, so set up our sample rate, our bit depth. Yeah, what we're going to save it as. Take a sample of the analog sound, which we've got here, seconds over amplitude. Measure the volume or the amplitude, frequency. Convert or provide a binary value for each of the measurements, these points here, and then store as a digital file. And finally, for question 1, Raoul uses a lossy algorithm. To compress the file. Give one reason why the sound quality of the compressed file may not be as good as the uncompressed file. Well, all MP3s, music files, have been compressed significantly. And basically what it means is that some sound may be missing some frequencies. You see, what generally happens is the sounds that we can't hear, the human ear cannot hear, we remove. So only like sounds that dogs can hear, we'd remove those sounds. But generally speaking, it wouldn't matter. So basically, that's an easier way of sort of writing that would be some audio data is lost. Okay, that's basically it. Some audio data is lost. Some sound may be missing some frequencies, or some audio data is lost. Easy as that. It's only 1 mark. Nice and easy question. When you compress anything using lossy data, the whole idea of lossy is that you will lose something. If you're using lossy compression to compress images, you'll generally lose some color in the image. And that's it. That's question 1 done. So the total marks of question 1, 16. Okay, moving on to question 2, and now we're talking about networks and network security. So Danielle manages network security for a small business. Identify one action Danielle could take to protect the network from unauthorized access. So she could give each user a separate account. Okay, to do that anyway. How is that protecting the network? Enforce a strong password. Well, that would be useful, yeah. Make sure everybody's using the strong passwords and that can't be hacked. Make a backup plan. Okay, why? That's sort of reactive if it was to get hacked. We're talking about preventative to protect. Encrypt sensitive files. Well, again, that's not protecting it. That's just protecting some files. It's not protecting the network. So the clue is it's got to protect the network. So the only one really would be enforce a strong password policy. Okay, that ensures that everybody with a user account, make sure that everybody's got a strong password. Maybe use characters, use numbers, use capital letters, lowercase letters, and symbols. Okay, so that would be the correct answer. So B. Daniela has circled the words "Dear customer." Give one reason why the use of these words might make Danielle suspect that the email is a phishing attempt. Okay, well, because it's specific, I will read this to you. We have noticed some unusual activity on your account. So it's personal. So I've stopped all payments. Please use this link to log in and check your account. Your normal login will stoop, okay, working until you have done this. Regards, Safe Payment Fraud Prevention Team. But it's not very personal, is it? This is just as general "Dear customer," okay, rather than something specific to Danielle. So that would be, in my word, the email should be personalized. The email should be personalized. That would be the answer for that, i.e. using Daniela's full name. And then the next question, draw circles around 2 other aspects of the email that might make Daniela suspect it is a phishing attempt. And this is worth 2 marks. So I think we found one before when I read it out. I would say that there's a spelling mistake there, stoop. So let's have a look from the top line. From safepayment.accounts at, 5/8 payments. So they've used 5 for the S. So it's not even from safepayment.com, it's from 5/8payments.com. So I would put a circle around that and a circle around that. It's asking for 2. I found 2. Do we need to look for any more? No, I'm happy with that. So that would get us the marks for those 2 questions. So that's 3 marks. Okay, part C. Some employees use company laptops in public places. Danielle is concerned that shoulder surfing could pose a risk to security. Describe what is meant by shoulder surfing. Well, it's the act of trying to gain information by directly observing someone. Okay, basically looking over someone's shoulder, e.g. PIN number at ATM machine. So that would be a good example. If you're at the ATM machine, if somebody's looking over to try and spot what your number is that you're typing in, an example of shoulder surfing, it is directly observing someone. And again, for 2 marks, explain, and we're going to use 1, explain one way of preventing shoulder surfing. You could, if you're on your device, tilt your screen away from prying eyes. That could be 1. Okay. Tilt your screen away from prying eyes, or have your back against a wall. Basically, think about your position. Okay, that would be the main one. Okay, you could use a long password, use a screen filter. Some of the new phone screens now have like privacy glass that you can have. Part D, Daniela wants to protect the network from cyber attacks. Identify the purpose of penetration testing. What on earth is penetration testing? It's basically, penetration testing uses the same techniques a hacker would try, but the aim is to identify the weaknesses. Rather than stealing the data or damaging the system, it's basically looking for weaknesses in the system. So what have we got? To decompile executable code, well, it's not that. To identify security vulnerabilities, yes, it would be that you can consider it to be that. To test the strength of an encryption algorithm, well, sort of, but it's not really talking about securities, is it? We're talking about securities. This is what the whole point of this question is about. To enforce a network user policy, it's not that. So it's either B or C, and because we're mentioning security vulnerabilities here, it would be B. Okay? And then finally, Daniela is sent a software patch from the network operating system, but is too busy to install it straight away. So, if you've got MacBooks or Windows computers, every now and periodically you'll get a message saying, please update your operating system. So if you don't do it straight away, or when it says do this overnight, what might be the problem? That's what it's trying to say. Explain why this delay could pose a threat to the security of the network. Okay, so basically, unpatched or not up-to-date software is more vulnerable to attacks. These vulnerabilities could be exploited by a potential hacker. Always keep your software up to date with the latest version, okay? Because the latest versions will have the latest protection. Question 3. Carlo uses his smartphone to make hands-free calls from the car. The smartphone connects to the car wirelessly, forming a network. Complete the table by adding a tick to indicate the network type and a tick to indicate the usage model the network uses. Okay, well, a local area and a wide area network are used generally to connect computers together in an office or across the world, a wide area network. We're only working with one person and his car, so it would be a PAN, a personal area network. We've got two models here, a client server and a peer-to-peer. Now, with a client server, this is generally used with WANs or LANs. A client server network is mainly used for game hosting or web services or personal networks operated in organizations, whereas peer-to-peer is generally a network authorizing you to link two or more computers to a single system. So we're only needing to connect one device to the car, so it would be a peer-to-peer network. Okay, data on a network is transmitted between devices using packets and the TCP/IP layer protocol stack. Complete the table by naming two layers of the stack and giving one function for each of the layers that you have named. Okay, well, what are the layers? There are 4 different layers. There's an application layer, there is a transport layer, there is a network layer, and there's also a data link. So we can have any one of these. Application, the layer name. If I say, I'm going to use the first one, application. Okay, and what's it do? The application, okay, it interacts with whoever's using it, with the user. Yeah, the user interacts with it, selects and uses the correct protocol to transmit data. The application also selects and uses the correct protocol to transmit data. Okay, so there would be the two to go with that. Interacts with the user, selects and uses the correct protocol to transmit data. That would be the application layer. Transport layer, there's lots of those. I'll use transport layer because there's many different functions of a transport layer. Basically identifies the server port to use. It identifies a client port to use. Okay, but it does things like it divides the data into packets. It numbers the packets, and then it basically passes those to the network layer, checks the packets have arrived at the destination, and then it also resends any packets that may have got lost or may have not have arrived. So, an important layer, the transport layer, but we've got the application, the transport, the network, and the data link. The data link, for example, would add things like headers and trailers. It has the MAC address to each of the packets, and it sends the packets on their way. Whereas the network adds the source sender's IP address and adds the destination IP address, and it routes the packets. It goes from one node to the next. Okay, this is quite a lot of information in terms of moving data around a network and using packet switching and nodes. Part C. The smartphone can communicate using Wi-Fi. Okay, identify which one of these is a radio frequency used by smartphones to connect to Wi-Fi. Well, you either know this or you don't, but the correct answer would be A, 2.4 gigahertz. Why? Because the others, 3 kilohertz, 4.1 gigahertz, and 5 kilohertz, these aren't smartphone frequency bands. This one is a radio frequency band used. Part D. Carlo's smartphone can use 3G, 4G, and 5G mobile communication standards. Give one advantage of using a higher frequency band for mobile communication. Generally, provides greater, they're only worth 1 mark, these questions, bandwidth. So that would give you 1 mark. Or something like it's more stable, which means it's less prone to interference. So basically with a higher bandwidth, it means you can transmit more data. Explain one benefit to Carlo of using 5G rather than 3G. Well, I've just explained that. Basically, Carlo can move, download data much faster due to greater bandwidth. Okay? Gives him a better experience. There's no buffering or anything anymore. Okay, and for 1 mark, Carlo wants to reduce the environmental impact of his smartphone. Give one way Carlo could reduce energy consumption. Well, basically, what does that mean? It basically means make his battery last longer. So let's turn down screen brightness. That's one way of doing it. What also happens, you can close all apps not in use. Because having apps opened generally takes some energy. And I'll mention this one, we can turn off Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth locations, again, when they're not in use. Okay, explain one other way that reduces energy consumption that Carlo could reduce the environmental impact of his smartphone. Explain one way other than reducing energy consumption. He could keep his mobile phone for a longer time before upgrading, which would mean less waste because there's no disposal. You're not getting rid of the phone, you're going to keep it. So keep his mobile phone for a longer time before upgrading means less waste and no disposal. Okay, and that is it for question 3. So the total marks there would give us 13. That is the end of part 1. We've done the first 3 questions. In the next video, we'll do questions 4, questions 5, and question 6 to end the paper. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Please continue to ask questions, leave your comments, hit notifications, and please subscribe. And finally, if you wish to buy me a coffee, I'd be truly grateful. Please visit buymeacoffee.com/learning zone. Thank you very much indeed. See you next time. Bye for now.